So what we look at is we have a workforce who does not want to talk on the phone.
Mm,
So our order taking experience over the phone in a loud, busy restaurant
mm,
was not great.
yeah.
And it's not going to get better. We have a whole generation of people who do not like to talk on the phone.
Mhm.
And how are they going to give the guests a great experience over the phone?
Mhm.
They're not. So
Yeah.
that's how we started the journey.
Welcome to Franchise Leader Spotlight. I'm Katherine LeBlanc. This series highlights the leaders shaping franchising today, how they built their careers, what they're focused on now, and what they believe is coming next for the industry. Let's dive in. Brought to you by MyPodcastHost. Hey, today's conversation is with Kevin King. He is president and CEO of Donato's Pizza. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Catherine, how you doing?
I'm doing
Good to see
good.
you again.
It's good to see you. I'm excited to jump into our conversation today. You and I have worked together in the past, and going into this conversation, I'm really excited to hear about this season of your career. And what I'm most curious about is what's something unexpected that has come up for you this year?
Um, well, thank you. First of all, I love being here and yeah, getting reacquainted. This season of my career is super exciting. Becoming a CEO was something that was a goal of mine and I wanted to do, and I love doing it. So, what I love doing about it is leading and growing
Yeah.
and helping lead and grow our company, our leaders, our people,
Mm-hmm.
and helping set that vision for what the next several years look like and the things
Mm-hmm.
that we want to accomplish. So that's probably the best thing about it so far that is very rewarding to me is
Mm-hmm.
helping people learn and grow is fantastic. And it's a big part of what a CEO and leader needs to do is to help the people around him grow. And that's how you multiply the results is by getting your people to grow, take ownership, take leadership, and go from there.
So tell me, so you started, or not started, but in franchising, you were doing franchise development, and you are now in the CEO leadership position. What would you tell someone who is making a similar transition to be on the lookout for?
Well, the first thing I would tell anybody, regardless of your role in the organization, is understand what makes the organization work, regardless of your role. So if I have a
Hmm.
development role, you can be super focused on just what development is, but you'll never be as successful as if you understand what makes the business work. And I usually break that down to how does the business make money? And once you understand how the business makes money, you can contribute far beyond your
Yeah.
individual role
Yeah.
and you can help across all
Mm.
functions. So regardless of what career path you're on, you
Mm-hmm.
think you're a marketing person or a
Yep.
development, or I'm just an ops person,
Yeah.
make sure you understand how the business makes money, contribute beyond your role, and you'll be prepared to lead and grow someday.
Why do you think people don't do that? And I'm asking you that because in my experience and over the course of my career, and you're so right, and that's such a succinct way of saying it. People don't do it all of the time. Do you have any idea why or what stops them?
I think contributing beyond your role is a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
And in some
Yeah.
ways, you feel like you
Mm,
might be stepping on other people's toes. So
okay.
people hang back. Why they don't understand how the business makes money
Hmm.
makes no sense to me.
Okay.
So it's
We're
one
on
of
the
the
same.
it's one of the things that I try to talk to people
Yeah.
about because if you break it down and you think you can have the best marketing strategy in the
Hmm.
world, but if it's unprofitable,
Right.
why
Yep.
would the business do it?
Yep.
And a lot of
Yep.
people can't get out of their way. And,
Hmm.
it could be a people strategy
Yeah.
and
Right.
how we want to lead our
Yeah.
people or, hey, we want to provide this benefit.
Mm.
Okay, great. What does that benefit cost? What does it do
Hmm.
to how
Yep.
the business makes money?
Yeah.
If you solve that problem, then it's
Hmm.
a really viable option. But
Hmm.
if you don't, then you're going to have all the people kind of saying, yeah, I don't like that, or we can't
Yeah.
afford that, or we can't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why people don't do it. And I
Mhm.
don't know that we teach it either.
I was just going to say, it is often when I'm asked for advice from marketers coming up into the marketing world, my first thing is know your numbers, right? Because a lot of times what I find is marketers really like to hide behind, "Well, I'm a marketer and I don't know math." And it's like, okay, you don't need to know math in order to know your numbers. And that, to your point, is how does the business tick, but also what are the performance metrics that you need to bring to the table and be responsible for? And I think that to your last point, sometimes it's the leadership that is not giving access to the numbers or teaching, right? Taking the time to teach about this is how these things work together.
Yeah. And that's going to hold the organization
Yeah.
back.
Hmm.
Numbers shouldn't be secret. How the business makes money should be talked about all the time.
Mhm.
You just don't want to know, hey, we had a good month or a bad month.
Right.
And so that's another huge part, I think, of what's worked for me in my career and what
Mhm.
I try to teach others is be curious. So some of
Yes.
this is curiosity. Be curious about how the business makes money. What
Mhm.
are the things that work and don't work as far as how the business is going to make money, thrive, and grow?
Mm.
But it's not just about money because organizations needs mission and vision and
Mhm.
promises to
That's
their
right. Yeah.
guests. And so you really have to take all of those
Mhm.
things, put that in, but don't skip how the business makes money
Yeah.
because you'll never get to where you want to go if you don't understand that.
Yeah.
And people won't value your contributions
Mhm.
because you don't know. And it's actually not that hard,
Yep.
especially
Mhm.
in franchising or in a restaurant category
Mhm.
specific.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to understand how the restaurant makes money, what works and what doesn't.
Yes, I agree. Restaurant industry is not easy, but understanding how it makes money is easy.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, I love
that's for sure. The restaurant industry is not easy.
it. Yeah. Tell me one thing, what is your team doubling down on this year?
So we're doubling down on a couple things, but service is the primary thing. So Donato's has always been about great pizza. And we have, I think, the world's best operating system to make great pizza. Jim Grody, the founder, he was maniacally focused on quality
Mm.
and consistency from the very first day.
Mhm.
And therefore, our process is super detailed and it's very easy to follow. You and I worked at Smoothie King. Their process was really easy too.
Mhm.
Scoops of this,
Yep.
and there was an individual chit that printed out. Ours does the same, except it's weights.
Mhm.
So we don't use volumetric. We weigh everything. And if you follow the system, it's really easy. But our service isn't as great as our product is. And in today's world, that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you're selling a premium product, you've got to offer a premium service
Mhm.
or you're not differentiated. You will lose focus. You will lose
Mhm.
guests because you're not doing what they want. So we're super focused on service this year, but also as a business, really trying to understand how we can leverage AI
Yeah.
and every aspect because
Mhm.
there is aspects in the restaurant that we can leverage AI to really help us. But our marketing team can, our
Mhm.
IT team can,
Mhm.
our people team can. We run a food manufacturing facility. We manufacture dough. It can use AI.
Mhm.
So I want our organization to be quick learners
Okay.
about AI this year and figure out how we can accomplish more. We lean in heavy on innovation. When I talked about Jim Grody's philosophy from the very beginning of quality and consistency, he's always looked at automation in the restaurant
Uh,
to be about how to make the pizza more consistent, right? It's not
I love
how I
that.
do it without
Yeah.
people. It's how do I make it easier
Yeah.
to be perfect in
Yes. Right.
the restaurant. So he's worked on so many things, but we're rolling out some of them too. We have a sauce machine that puts the perfect sauce portion on in 7 seconds. We can't do it in seven
Right.
seconds. And if we did, it would not be perfect.
Yeah.
Donato's puts 100 pieces of pepperoni on a large pizza. That's a lot of pepperoni.
Mhm.
Takes a lot of time. He's also developed a machine that slices the pepperoni onto the stick, off the stick, and drops it right on the pizza. And it does a large pizza in 40 seconds. And again, a human can't do it
Yeah.
that fast
Am I a nerd to
really
just
well.
be, like, so excited to hear all of this? Because I think that you're talking about the Donato's pizza experience started with the perfect pizza. And if you don't have the perfect product, then you're not going to get the opportunity to provide the perfect service. And yes, in the restaurant industry, service can overcome a lot of different things. But I also, one of my pet peeves in this industry, especially in the restaurant industry, is depending on service to carry the brand. And when you're in franchising, that is really hard to
Really
scale.
hard.
So starting with the product and getting that perfect and then bringing on, and to your point, as your role, right? Bringing on mission, vision, culture, and having that permeate throughout and developing the systems and tools on top of the perfect pizza, I think is so smart.
Yeah. And what we're trying to do is free up our
Mhm.
associates so that they can maximize the impact of their face to
Mhm.
face
Mhm.
interactions with their guests.
Yeah.
And we don't have that many opportunities. As a pizza restaurant, we might only see one person in the family, and
Mhm.
we might not see them at all
Mhm.
because we deliver to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to make sure that that service experience is super special. And it comes from taking the order, which we
Mhm.
do. Most of our business is through our online engine. We have a AI call center that we
Mhm.
use. We have a partner called Revmo that we started with last year. But those two experiences have to be
Yeah.
just as good as the quality of the pizza because they impact how the guest feels about the
Mhm.
service. And everything we do through that process has to be great. And then how do we make it great for our associates? How do we
Mhm.
make it super easy so they can smile,
Yeah.
greet,
Right.
say thank you,
Mhm.
and not be worried about everything in the background. And that's where AI is going to help us. That's
Mhm.
where automation is going to help us. This service business can't be done without people. So we got to have great people.
Mm.
We want people who are engaging to the guests.
Do you find that we talked about automation, we talked about machines doing perfect slices of pepperoni, perfect pours of sauce. We talked about your order experience is a little bit hands-free. What I hear from a marketing perspective, it's like you're creating frictionless experiences for the guests, which is awesome. But is there any pushback? Do you get any pushback around kind of removing people from those
Of course,
processes?
there's some pushback. I'll
Mhm.
start with, does everybody love an AI order taking process?
Mhm.
No.
Mm.
Does everybody want to order online? No.
Mm.
So we have to make sure that there's a way for the guest so we can be
Mm.
where the guest wants to be.
Yes, 100%.
So
Mhm.
even on our AI order taking, it was really important that it's always possible to get to the restaurant
Okay.
because if you just don't want to go through the AI order taking, which
Mhm.
is faster than we can take the order, it's
Mhm.
more efficient in a lot of ways, it can be a better experience. But if that's just not what you want to do,
Uh,
then we got to make it easy for you to get to
mhm.
the restaurant and take your order. And so that's how we think about automation and things like this and the technology that we use is how do we just free up time so that we can give a guest
Mhm.
experience more face to face or more personal. And how do we arm them? You know, in the pizza category, we know who our guest is,
Mhm.
right? They give us their phone number. A
Mhm.
lot of them give us their address.
Mhm.
We have a loyalty program. So we know who they are. But how can we equip the people in our restaurant to be personal to the guests when they come? And that's what we've really got to work on. It's
Well, Kevin, I have to I'm like fangirling because what I'm hearing though is something that is in my opinion gets often missed when we're creating plans and when we're creating our initiatives, and it's the guest. And everything that you're talking about is how are we improving that guest experience, and you're starting with the guest, right? So you're not onboarding an AI ordering platform because you want to save on labor, and it's because you want to make it more efficient and more pleasurable for the guests to get their order as fast as possible. And so when you have that lens, when you start there, then great. That's how you build greatness. And it is people, it is AI, right? AI is taking over the world, and it is online, and it's all of the things. It's meeting your guests where they are, not for the sake of having that tool, but because your guest is telling you they want that tool.
Yeah. I'll tell you about the journey to the phones. We talked before this about your kids and
Hmm.
their age, 15 and 17. Do they like to talk on the phone?
Yeah.
No. So what we look at is we have a workforce who does not want to talk on the phone.
Mm.
So our order taking experience over the phone in a loud, busy restaurant
Mm.
was not great. And it's not going to get better because kids today don't talk on the phone. They text, they
Hmm. Yeah.
post, they take pictures, they
Snapchat.
communicate in a lot of
Yeah.
different ways.
Right.
But picking up the phone and calling a friend is not one. We have a whole generation of people who do not like to talk on the phone.
Mhm.
And how are they going to give the guests a great experience over the phone?
Mhm.
They're not. So that's how we started the journey. And, we started it in a time where it was really hard to staff in our restaurants. That's eased a little bit in the current
Mhm.
environment, but the fact that they don't want to answer the phone is not changed.
Right.
So again, it's back to the guest wants to place an order.
Yes.
How can I
Yeah.
give them multiple ways to do it?
Yeah. I love everything that you're doing.
Thank
Check.
you.
Approved.
Awesome. I wish it was that easy.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk. We talked a lot about the pizza industry. Let's talk about the franchising industry. What are you seeing that's going right for the franchising industry right
Well,
now?
this is a super important time.
Mhm.
And we're sitting here today at the International Franchise Association annual convention. And we have a once in a lifetime opportunity to solidify the franchisor franchisee relationship with a
Mhm.
bill that's been introduced into Congress. So it is so important for us as an industry to wrap ourselves around this and get this bill passed this
Mm.
year. It's called
Mm.
the American Franchising Act, and it will be monumental in codifying by law the
Mhm.
relationship between franchisors and
Mhm.
franchisees. And it is something that has to get done. And hopefully we can get it done this year. That's a great thing. What else? AI, huge right now. If anybody isn't working or thinking or talking about AI in their business, then they're missing the boat. So how are businesses going to leverage it? And then the last thing about franchising I'd just like to say is I think it is the best business model around.
Mhm.
It's fantastic. There are so many people who want to own their own business
Mhm.
and they're not entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So, some people misunderstand what franchising is. Franchisees, well, we call them franchise partners, but franchise partners are risk takers, but they aren't
Right.
necessarily entrepreneurs. They can be entrepreneurial,
So,
but
yeah.
they're not really willing to take the risk
Mhm.
of starting a business from scratch.
Mhm.
And so we can leverage their desire to be a business owner and all their skills to be local, to be
Mhm.
from the neighborhood and
Mhm.
in the community through this system called franchising.
Right.
So, and yes, are there large franchisees? Yes, but they also act locally.
Mhm.
And they all started with one restaurant
Right.
or
Yeah.
one business or
Right.
one store.
Mhm.
And it's just a fantastic business. It's a great way to put people into business. And you mentioned earlier, I spent most of my career on the development. And one of the things I loved about that was seeing people fulfill their
Yeah.
goals and watching people just love owning a business. And that's wouldn't be possible without franchising.
Mhm.
So that's why it's so important for us to get this bill passed this
Yeah.
year. That's why it's so important for us to continue to grow as an industry. And
Mhm.
it's a huge economic engine for this country.
Mhm.
So I
What
just love it.
Yeah, and if you were talking to a franchisee, so our prospective franchisee that doesn't know anything about this bill and doesn't understand kind of why it might be important, what would be the talking point that you would give them?
So the nuts and bolts of it is around a concept called joint employer.
Mhm.
And over the last decade, the joint employer rule, the definition of it has changed back and forth by administration. So what that gives is uncertainty in a business.
Mm.
What does the stock market not like?
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty. So, and that's because in business, uncertainty is usually troubling. You
Yeah.
can't do long-term planning.
Right.
And so this bill will make sure that we have one rule for what is joint
Mhm.
employer. You can still violate the joint employer rule
Mhm.
with this bill, but it actually gives a set of ground rules so that
Mhm.
everybody can plan.
Yeah.
Franchisees can build the culture that they want to build, and the franchisor can coach on the culture
Mhm.
without becoming joint employers.
Yep.
Franchisor is not responsible for all of the employment
Mhm.
practices of a franchisee and vice versa, because a franchisee could be then held responsible for the employment practices of a franchisor.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's why this bill is so important.
Mhm.
And it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to get it done. So super excited about
Yeah, and just to clarify, when we say joint employer, we mean the franchisee owns, but not owns, but is responsible for their own employees, and the franchisor is not responsible for those employees. I think that's a plain way to say it.
Yeah, that's a very good way to say it. And it goes to wages, performance reviews, all
Hours, setting
kinds of things,
hours, the
everything about
culture that you're
the
building.
culture that
You
you're
know, I was
building.
talking to some franchisees through this podcast series, and the most successful franchisees, yes, they are buying into a franchise and they are buying into the culture of the franchise, but they establish their own culture within their own organization.
Absolutely. That's what makes it work.
Not only that's what makes it work, but that's what makes them scalable
Mhm.
because then they can take their culture and bring it to other brands, more locations, and that's where wealth gets built, right?
For
And so
sure.
I think that's, a key reason that this is crucial.
And one of the greatest things about franchising is people can see the tangible effects of their work.
Yeah,
And, not everybody is successful, but everybody has a chance to be.
that's right.
And,
Hmm.
the other thing about this convention and about conferences that brands have is to try to share ideas and best
Hmm.
practices so that you can take them back and do them locally. But that's the other thing about franchising that I think we have to do a much better job talking about. The IFA has run a campaign on franchising is local. There's a big emphasis right now on supporting local businesses. Franchising is a local
That's right.
business
Hmm.
and there is a local owner. You might very well see them in that store regularly
Hmm.
and they're a part of their local community. And so we can't lose that advantage and we can't make people think that all these restaurants or fitness clubs or
Yeah.
everything are not locally owned
Right.
because most
Yeah.
of them are.
Well, and that is from a marketing perspective, that is key to driving growth
That's
is
right.
for it to be known as local and you'll hear me say this all the time and you'll hear marketers say this all the time. You have to be the mayor of your hometown, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
the franchisee is the mayor so that they are driving. People want to buy from people. And that is the key differentiator for franchising
Totally.
from a marketing
Totally
perspective.
agree.
What do you think we're getting wrong?
In franchising,
Hmm.
um, that's a challenging question. You know, there are some things, there are, I think 400 new franchise concepts come up
Hmm.
every year, and how those concepts get off the ground.
Hmm.
Only 16% are successful,
Hmm.
ever scale. And we've got to make sure that although you give opportunity for people to start a
Yeah.
business and franchise,
Yeah.
but that we don't get the ills of
Hmm.
franchising. People
Yeah.
who are just focused on signing agreements and collecting fees and
Yes.
has no
Right.
intention of really ever supporting their
Right.
franchisees and helping them build
Yeah.
businesses. And that's one of the reasons that people like scale. New franchisees like businesses that are a little bit larger. That reason is because they know that the concept works.
It's proven.
It's proven.
Hmm.
And they know that the franchisor is vested in making sure
Hmm.
franchisees are as successful as
Hmm.
possible. So we got to talk a lot about that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Um, and this is again, this is a great industry. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, and I think that the push pull is everybody does deserve an opportunity, right? And everybody does to franchise. And if it's something that you feel like you're bringing to life that is really going to make a difference in the world, and you believe in, you want to give everybody the opportunity to franchise, but in the franchising industry, I'd say if you're new to franchising and you're thinking about franchising, everyone has a story of a franchise that failed
Mhm.
and thoughts around why it failed and how it failed. And a lot of it goes to bad advice in the beginning, understanding whether or not you have a franchisable concept. Do you have something that's repeatable? Do you have something that's scalable? Do you have something that's profitable?
Mhm.
And profitable in one location is not necessarily an
No, it
indication
doesn't.
that you are going to be profitable in another location. So, do you have something that has already scaled? And then, are you selling in a responsible manner? And are you bringing those franchise partners to the table? But there really isn't any, I think that's the advice that we give as veteran franchisor. Um,
Yeah, and the IFA has done a really good job and
mhm,
is working on something. One of them is called a certified franchisor,
mm,
which I think for years companies wanted to be a member of the IFA because it gave them legitimacy.
mhm,
And I think this is going to take legitimacy to the next level. I'm
mm,
excited to see
yeah.
how that comes to life.
Mhm,
The IFA is an interesting organization because it represents both franchisors, franchisees, and
that's
suppliers.
right.
So
Mhm,
it is doing its best to make sure it represents the interests of all three.
right.
And so that's what the organization is charged with. And
Mhm,
that's also what makes it work. So
mm, mm,
having
yeah.
franchisees involved in the IFA is
Mhm.
incredibly important.
I want to come back to you a little bit and your journey. You're now president of Donato's and Pizza. And I'd love to hear one leadership lesson that has stuck with you across the years.
I'm going to talk about two things. The
Okay.
first is the word leader. And this is something that has really come to life in me over the last year. We had the opportunity to spend some time with some of the people at Chick-fil-A
Mhm,
last year.
mm,
And what I walked away thinking about and hearing about was they didn't once talk about a manager, management. It was all about leader and leadership. And if there's anything that we can do in this entire industry called franchising is get rid of the word manage and make it all about leading and leadership. And we do it in titles. We
yeah.
have general managers of restaurants,
Mhm,
and why aren't they the leader? There's lots of words. We can have district leaders, we can have market leaders.
mhm,
So the one thing that really sticks with me is ask anyone, do you like to be managed?
yeah.
And almost always the answer is no. But if you ask that same question, do you like to be led? And the answer is almost always
Mhm,
yes. So that's one of my leadership lessons is
yeah.
for all of us to lean in on leadership and lean hard into it in everyone's organizations and create a team of leaders. As the CEO, that's my primary responsibility
Mhm,
is to create leaders across the business. And so that's a huge part of what I would call my leadership lesson.
Mhm.
And, we are trying to bring that to life in our company. And it's not just a title change. So we got to do all the hard work first. And how are we going to teach and coach
Yeah.
leadership?
Mhm.
How are we going to hire for leadership?
Mhm.
And then we can make the title change, because
Mhm.
I don't want to make the title change before we actually have programs to support it.
Yeah.
Because then we've lost. So
Right, 'cause
we
it's
call
just a
you a
name,
leader, but
right?
you're a
Yeah.
manager,
Right.
and that's not right.
Yeah.
And as we get into different generations of associates and employees, we we need them to they just want to be leaders.
Yeah.
They're all interested in their career development, their career track, what's next for them, and that's why we got to be all about leader and
Mhm.
leadership. So
Yeah.
that's a huge part. The other part that I would just say is my job is about communicating mission, vision, and trying to bring it to life.
Yeah.
And that's celebrating with people. It's giving people opportunity. It's learning to let people do things without me in it. It's that some things are going to be better without me involved.
Is that hard to learn?
Oh, yeah. It's difficult, and you have to remind yourself,
Yeah.
right? There's
Yeah.
all of us are better than me, and how do you bring that to life, and how do you
Mhm.
trust and give people experience, and then how can I sit back and coach?
Mhm.
So, of course, there are things that I wanna be involved in, but I have to decide, what do
Yeah.
I need to be involved in
Right.
that, and should I
Yeah.
just let it go? And that it's learned behavior. It doesn't come natural to me.
Right.
I don't know if it comes natural to everybody, but
Yeah.
it certainly doesn't come natural to me.
Mhm.
It's a learned behavior, and I have to remind myself all the time. But I do know in my heart that our organization is better if we have a team of
Mhm.
people who can get things done,
Mhm.
and they're not relying on me to do it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
those are the two things
Yeah.
I'd say.
Well, and I love the fact that you recognize that you need to be intentional about it and it doesn't come natural. I'm kind of same way of like I have an opinion of how things need to get done, but if we don't allow the people that we're leading the opportunity to do it their way, then they're never going to learn, and we're always going to be the bottleneck. Yeah.
Always be the bottleneck.
Mhm.
And you're limited to your own thinking. So how
Yes, but we're always right, Kevin.
I know that, but
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, two heads are better than one. Tell me, what does franchising need more of?
I think we need to be representative of our community and
Mm.
our cities, villages, towns, counties. So we need that diversity in franchising.
Mhm.
So some of it is a little hard, because
Mhm.
a lot of times you have to build up some net worth and value
Yeah.
before you can afford to be a franchisee. And that takes a little bit of time. But I think we do represent a really good cross section of America.
Mhm.
And I think it's great. The other part is, don't don't ever miss the fact that franchisees need to make money. So
Yes.
what are you doing as an organization
Mhm.
to help them make money?
Yeah.
And making money is what fuels growth in your
Mhm.
organization. And so some franchisors take a hands-off attitude. I don't I don't collect the P&Ls. I don't look at the P&Ls. That's the franchisee's personal business, and they
Mhm.
can do what they want, and they're missing the mark,
Mhm.
because you're going to grow much faster. You're going to be a better franchisor if your franchisees are profitable.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
you got to focus on it
Yeah. And what do we need less of?
less. I think I would say right now we need less government regulation, and it's really about getting this Joint Employer and American Franchising Act passed.
Mhm.
It will be a huge help to having less, and giving
Mhm.
franchisees the ability to plan and then grow their business.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uncertainty is always tough. The consumer right now, they're bifurcating, right?
Yep.
The higher income consumer is doing extremely well, and the
Yep.
low income consumer is not. So we would love to see everybody growing. There's a lot of businesses that rely on consumers across all income
Mhm.
categories. So we want everybody to grow, thrive, and prosper. So I think we need some help with the income consumers. How
Mhm.
can we
Yeah.
help make them grow so they can be good customers of all
Yeah.
of our
Right.
brands?
That's good for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I have a crystal ball. Look into it and tell me what is going to happen in 10 years for Donato's Pizza and you as a leader.
So, 10 years sounds like a long time. It's amazing how fast it goes. But what I see for Donato's is a brand that has a worldwide presence, and a brand that is still leaning in on innovation and automation. And it's all built on having a great product that's incredibly consistent, and our service system match our great pizza and our great consistency. And if
Yeah.
we do that, we will be everywhere we want to be.
Mhm.
Donatos has some really interesting growth opportunities ahead. We have a fully automated pizza restaurant at Columbus Airport. It's the first of its kind. It doesn't reheat a pizza. It actually, through robots and automation, it takes the crust, it sauces it, cheeses it, tops it, puts it in the oven, cuts it, and boxes it all without a human hand. And I think that has incredible opportunity in places,
Mm.
but it's never going to replace our restaurant environment.
Right.
It's not. Some people say, "Are you gonna put those in your restaurants?" The answer is no.
Mm.
They're not for our restaurants. They're for places like airports, office buildings,
Mhm.
hospitals
Mhm.
that or where you have limited access to outside food and you need something. We hope to have those around the world as well. So
Yeah.
we have a partner in that side called Apatronics, and we think it has tremendous legs.
Well, that sounds exciting. I can't wait to see it come to life.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Kevin.
You're welcome. Thanks, Catherine.
Brought to you by My Podcast Host.